the Toronto Star, I'm Saba Itazaz, and this matters. The global MeToo movement has revealed to us all that sexual misconduct is never just about the act itself. It's about power and control and who gets to hold that over whom. It's about bullies and what they think they can get away with. A similar story has emerged at a prominent dance company that has almost cult-like status in the dance community of North America. Break the Floor has a fervent following, and almost every dancer with a dream considers it an almost mandatory stop on the road to a career in dance. An exclusive Star investigation has found allegations of widespread sexual harassment and predatory behavior by BDF coaches over younger students. And the problem has been festering for years. The Star's Morgan Bocknek is the investigating reporter on the story. She's also a producer for our podcast team, and she joins me now to talk about her reporting. Hi, Morgan. It's nice to have you on.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Let's start with your investigation and what you found. Tell me a little bit about what happened.
So I found allegations of widespread sexual harassment and predatory behavior by Break the Floor coaches over their younger students, where complaints of inappropriate conduct were dismissed by the company's owner and let the problem fester for years. So 8 former staff and students of Break the Floor, which is North America's largest dance convention company, alleged that their teachers, who are substantially famous in the dance world, initiated sexual conversations, propositioned them for sex, sent them nude photos, sexually harassed them at work, or engaged in sexual relationships with them. 6 of these dancers alleged that Nick Lazzarini, the season 1 winner of So You Think You Can Dance, subjected them to unwanted sexual advances when they were teenagers. 2 choreographers who have been accused of inappropriate sexual behavior in this article remain employed by the company, according to its website. And in response, Break the Floor says that they're truly heartbroken that anyone has been subjected to inappropriate behavior by any person associated with Break the Floor. They say that for some time they've taken substantial steps to ensure Break the Floor is a safe and comfortable environment. They say they received training from youth protection advocates in dance, introduced new tools for faculty education, and implemented the revised faculty and staff code of conduct. And they say they remain committed to these initiatives and will continue to learn and be better.
You reached out to some of the people who were facing these accusations. Tell me more about those responses you got.
2 people who have allegations in this story told me aspects of this story did happen, or most of what happened, save a detail here and there, or the texts the dancers shared with me show clearly what happened to them. Nick Lazzarini said, "There is enough truth in their stories to make me feel ashamed and remorseful." And then later, when presented with an additional allegation, said that he never subjected anyone to unwanted sexual advances, and any claims to the contrary are simply untrue.
What is the significance of how some of those accused have responded?
So what shook me was one person claimed to have atoned through therapy. I heard about someone who said that these things weren't that bad. They weren't bad enough to publish. Yes, time has passed. Yes, restorative justice and atonement are both possible. These people who were young, many still teenagers, they told me they carry it. They're speaking to a journalist about it. And you only need to hear their voices when they describe these events to know that healing looks different for everyone. Justice is different for everyone. And sometimes those who received harm don't need cops. They just need to be heard because they say it wasn't just them. And based on the rates of this kind of violence beyond dance, we can know that too. But in this case, I found it was the system. I've been told they knew, and I've been told it took far too long for them to do anything about it. And yes, they say they're making changes now, and that is positive for everyone. But I've been told there was substantial, years-long harm done.
So they have responded, but these are big developments. Tell me a little bit more about the company. Tell me about Break the Floor. Is this sort of the career hub for the dancing community? And how important is that in terms of implications and the ripple effects of this culture you've uncovered?
So Break the Floor is one of the career milestones and career stops that many dancers will take on their way to a career in dance. Break the Floor has a fervent following, and for aspiring young dancers, these events, these conventions and competitions are an almost mandatory stop if you want to pursue dancing professionally. Thousands of hopefuls cram into hotel ballrooms across the continent, across the United States, across Canada for the chance to be discovered by top choreographers and catapulted into the spotlight. They call themselves one of the world's preeminent dance companies. Their programs reach more than 300,000 dancers each year. And on the convention circuit, children as young as 5 years old up to people through their teens spend entire weekends from early mornings to sometimes past midnight at events hosted in these ballrooms and convention centers. And teens who win titles at Break the Floor events are invited back to work on the convention circuit as dance assistants for choreographers on the Break the Floor roster, who are called internally faculty. And an alarming number of these dancers told me they experienced sexual misconduct.
We'll be right back. And I know you spoke to so many about their experiences, and one of them, in fact, had several conversations with you and has kind of become this advocate for change within this industry. Tell me a little bit about Keanu.
So Keanu Uchida is a professional dancer, choreographer, student of physics, philosophy, who has toured with Muse, Lorde, Pink, you name it. He's also very, very humble, and he's from Ottawa. He won the biggest Break the Floor award you can win in his late teens, which is the Best Dancer title. And he won it doing a dance he choreographed himself with his brother, which is unusual. Usually, dances for Best Dancer are choreographed by someone who's very established in the industry. And so even me, an amateur viewer of dance, someone new to watching dance, I can tell that this dance that he won with was a reinvention of the wheel. And Keanu, again, reinvented the wheel by sharing his story and the sexual misconduct he experienced. And now Keanu is again reinventing the wheel, working on a volunteer basis with Break the Floor to improve their code of conduct.
I started working for the company when I was 18 and worked there for 2 years as a dance assistant. And in my second year, I had a 6-month-long about sexual relationship with Nick Lazzarini, which was consensual. He's one of the, as most people would know in the dance world, one of the biggest choreographers in that community. And I think the biggest pattern there was this discrepancy in between what went on privately, which was actually, an incredibly positive experience, and what it was in the workplace with him, which, I was often subject to unsolicited touching, and this happened also before and after the relationship. I was subject also to a lot of degrading comments in front of my coworkers and in front of me. And I think it kind of opened my eyes to just how that culture operated in general, and how there was just a lot of silence on the issue, despite the fact that everybody knew that this was a problem. I know there's been worse, and people who've experienced much, much worse things also at younger ages when they weren't even adults. I think it's difficult, knowing that these spaces, and I think this is dance in general, like these are spaces where there's way more openly gay people that are visible. Maybe then, especially, maybe even 10 years ago or more, it wasn't so explicit, but it was still a very gay space. Like, you could be feminine and that could be accepted. You could really express yourself in ways that, were not accepted in the rest of society. And that's something that I've always valued about dance, and most people value about our system. But, most of us, I think when we experience some of these things, we're 16, 17, 18, 19, or even younger. And we were really young, of course, but we also were at such an important time in terms of the development of our sexuality.
That was difficult to hear, but so brave that Keanu came forward and shared this. And it's insightful to me in the sense that we've mostly seen the MeToo movement in the context of women and women's stories, and understandably so in terms of the proportion. But this story, in large part, features men. Is that significant?
Most research suggests 1 in 4 women in North America experience sexual violence. Most research also suggests that every 1 to 2 of 10 of all men and also all LGBTQ people will experience some form of sexual abuse or sexual assault at some point in their lives. That jumps to every 1 in 2 people if someone is trans. Yes, this story is mostly men, but we deliberately did not say people's sexual identities in this story because it's not about how they identify or how they identified.
Yeah, as you've seen in other industries as well, through the lens of the MeToo movement, this goes much deeper. And clearly, this is not just a break the floor problem, right?
Not at all. There have been 2 high-profile cases in the States involving dance in the past couple of years. Most recently, former Boston Ballet star Dusty Button and her husband, Mitchell Taylor Buston, currently stand accused of sexually abusing several dancers, including a minor in a federal lawsuit. And in 2018, the New York City Ballet came into public view because of a photo sharing scandal involving explicit images being shared by men within the company without the consent of people who they were of. And my reporting suggests that all this only scratches the surface.
Well, thank you so much, Morgan, for those insights and for sharing your investigative reporting with us.
Thank you for having me, Saba.
I was talking to the star's Morgan Bocknek. She's an investigating reporter on this story, and she's also a producer for our podcast team. That's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. I'm your host, Sabai Tazaz. The This Matters team is Adrian Chung, Brian Bradley, JP Forzo, Matt Hearn, Morgan Bocknek, Raju Muthur, and Sean Pattenton. Our music is by So-Called, Mike DeAngelis, and Sean Pattenton. We want to hear what stories matter to you. Please send us comments, questions, or ideas to thismatters@thestar.ca. Please consider supporting the journalism the Toronto Star newsroom does at thestar.com/subscribingmatters. And don't forget to subscribe to This Matters on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Let's talk soon.